Somalia reached the HIPIC completion point last December and reduced its debt from 64% of GDP to less than 6% in 2023. This not only ensures debt sustainability, but also opens a way for Somalia to access new financing to be able to support economic and social development. Completion point was achieved thanks to the solid track record of reform implementation by the Somali authorities and the strong support from development partners. In the last decade, Somalia increased revenues from 1% of GDP to 2.8% of GDP in 2023. Expenditures increased from 2% of GDP to 6.3% of GDP in those 10 years. In addition, institutional reforms were implemented accompanied by greater reporting and greater accountability. The key elements that contributed to Somalia's success are first and foremost the strong ownership by the Somali authorities of the reform agenda, the careful prioritization and sequencing of reforms taking into account capacity constraints, the very close integration of that reform agenda with capacity development support, and finally, the close coordination with other development partners, in particular the World Bank. I want to emphasize that the responsiveness of our capacity development support would not have been possible without the Somalia Country Fund, which is receiving financial support from Canada, the European Union, Italy, the UK, and Sweden. Progress made in public financial management clearly illustrates how far Somalia has come over the last decade.
When discussing PFM reforms in Somalia, it is important to understand the backdrop from where country is coming from. After 2 decades of conflict in 2012, federal government of Somalia was barely functional. Governing laws dating back to 1960s and 1970s were largely unfit for the purpose. Manual public financial management processes were manual, prone to error, and poorly implemented. All financial transactions of the government were conducted in cash, including salary payment, with no accountability. And federal government of Somalia also started accumulating expenditure arrears and sometimes failed to pay salaries and wages. Somalia started implementing PFM reforms in 2012 in that context, and the focus of PFM reforms was in 4 areas. Number 1 was to improve public financial management processes, and the focus was on core PFM processes, that is from procurement to payment processes, financial reporting, cash management, payroll management, etc. Secondly, they also focused on introducing a digitalization platform, that is Somalia Financial Management Information System, with the help of World Bank, to implement these new PFM processes, and also to implement this digitalization platform. They also focused on building the capacity within the Ministry of Finance and also worked on the legal framework. This slide represents the key milestone during this first phase of reform in Somalia. After having these 4 key building blocks in place, that is Somalia Financial Management Information System, new improved PFM process, a strong capacity within the Ministry of Finance to implement new processes, as well as their law, new PFM Act 2019. They started exploring how they can use digital technologies to further improve these PFM processes going forward. Therefore, they launched a cash management portal to improve cash forecast, and they started exploring how digital technologies can be used to further re-engineer existing PFM processes. And again, the focus was on the same core PFM processes, that is procurement to payment, cash management, payroll, etc. So they launched an invoice tracking system, which now enables them to track all vendor invoices from the time these invoices are basically received in the line ministries till the time these invoices are paid in the Accountant General's office. They also launched an automatic bank reconciliation module, which reduced their bank reconciliation timing from a few weeks to a couple of minutes. And they also now exploring how they can use artificial intelligence in improving their cash management practices. With the support of Fiscal Affairs Department, they are exploring a few models to use the bank statements data to forecast cash inflows in the future. And few models are very promising, having accuracy of more than 90%.
In Somalia, we say qof wax ku siiya waad heshaa laakiin qof kula taliya ma heshid, which literally translates into someone who advises you and supports you to achieve empowering goals is a real friend. So after nearly 3 decades of conflict and civil strife, we were left with out-of-date laws, systems, and processes which do not serve our economic reform aspirations. True, we paid salaries in cash. It was also true we had no credible budgeting process. It was also true that our revenues were very impossible to predict, collect, and accurately forecast in our budget. The operations of the central bank were also error-prone and redundant. Essentially, the basic functions of the Somali financial institutions were dysfunctional just a decade ago. Given this backdrop, our government engaged the IMF strategically, targeting our institutional, policy, operational, and legal weaknesses. The objective was to increase domestic revenue, improve public financial management, build and deepen financial sector integrity and regulatory capacity, and enhance good governance. A lot to do in a very short space of time indeed. What are the results of the capacity development assistance? The obvious one is Somalia reached the heavy completion point and attained debt relief after a strong reform record of reform implementation. What does this practically entail? Our domestic revenue is increasing year on year as we implement new tax laws and policies. We are also innovating in tax administration through automation. As Laura just highlighted earlier, domestic revenue rose from 1% of GDP to 2.7% of GDP in 2023. It is a remarkable achievement given Somalia's fragile context. Even more inspiring is we have been able to use the result and impact of the capacity development to increase expenditure from 2% of GDP to 6.3% of GDP in 2023, including on social benefits and education. Again, this is another milestone for Somalia as it is strengthening the state-society relations. On the BFM side, we have leapfrogged in many ways, as alongside, we went from paying salaries in cash with minimal accountability to now having a robust Somalia financial information system, SFMIS, which track all payments, including the largest amounts, salaries, and government operation costs in real time. In SFMIS, payments will not be released without it a rigorous commitment to control processes. Is the payment budgeted? Is it procured correctly? Is the invoice paid? Has the entity paid its due taxes? As is clear, reporting, accountability, and expenditure controls are embedded in our systems. This might seem very basic, but they were real challenges only a decade ago. Today, I am proud to say that our operational are governed by a comprehensive BFM law. The operations of SFMIS is a manifestation of this law. A real result from this rules-based approach is that we have no accumulated arrears on our expenditure owing to strong controls in place and also fiscal discipline.